Well, you may agree with Donald Trump, disagree with Donald Trump, but he is right about one thing. The poll numbers began improving for him long before we saw this move on the part of Director Comey to reopen a probe of Hillary Clinton's emails. And then, of course, yesterday to essentially say that probe was over. So Comey, in a way, was an October surprise and a November surprise. You've never seen that. But one of the things that's interesting is that a lot of this turnaround for Trump really has to go back to news that we were getting that the Affordable Care Act wasn't so affordable, that a lot of premiums for a lot of folks are going up double digits, 24% on average, in a lot of the key states that Mr. Trump has been visiting, oftentimes 100% or more. To Trump economic advisors, Andy Puzder, Peter Navarro, on what that means and how it's moving the needle. You know, Peter, I think last time you and I chatted, I thought that was a big factor not appreciated, that we were looking at the emails as deciding this race, when lo and behold, it might be something as simple as a real issue like health care. And I think it still resonates.
The big surge began with Obamacare, and the beauty of it from a Trump strategy campaign is that all of the premium hikes are in the swing states that are urgently needed for the election. I mean, Arizona's over 100%. Pennsylvania, 53%.
But if he has to
North
make a
Carolina,
tough sell in Arizona,
40%.
he's in a world of hurt, right? I mean,
well, look, he's going to win this election, and the reason why he's going to win it is because all of these blue states are in play. And if you go to a place like Michigan, which is ground zero, I think, in the trade issue, you see the people of that state understanding that every bad trade deal that we've gotten into over the last 23 years, NAFTA, China, South Korea, Clinton's had their hand in it. I mean, the 2012 Hillary Clinton deal promised us 70,000 new jobs. We wound up losing over 100,000 jobs. And for the state of Michigan, here's why it's important. 85% of the damage that Hillary Clinton did with the South Korean deal, where was it? Auto and auto parts.
So you don't think it's a waste of time right now that he's putting so much time in his
Just like Bernie Sanders, quote, upset Hillary Clinton. That was no upset to me when I saw that election.
No, you were right. I mean, he was up. She was up 20 points in the polls and ends up losing that state. But that was then. This is now. The argument now, Andy, is that the wind is at her back. Our Fox trend polls show her leading nationally by 4 percentage points. That could change. In these states, it's really a battle. Can you see a situation where one person wins the popular vote, loses the electoral vote?
Yeah, absolutely. It's particularly if there are large voter turnouts in states like New York and California, where it's very heavily Democrat.
So that would be a case where Donald Trump would pull a George Bush.
Election. Yeah, but
and then it could be the Hillary Clinton people protesting the results.
Yeah, exactly. But this Obamacare thing is huge. I mean, people call me all the time who are, you know, it takes money out of consumers' pockets. Which really encourages them not to vote for the Democrat, because obviously they're responsible for this law. But it also raises costs for employers. So if you're raising costs for employers and you're taking money out of the pockets of consumers so they can't even go to the businesses where others work, you're really going to see a decline in employment. You're going to see people not being able to eat out when they want to eat out, or not be able to buy clothes when they want to buy clothes. So this is something that really reaches in. It's much more impactful than the emails or Comey. It reaches into people's pockets.
But I think it's safe to say your base, look at Carl's Jr. I mean, they're going to eat no matter what.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope so.
Right.
Carl Jr. and Hardee's just keep coming. That's
and those are young males usually,
that's
right?
Yeah.
They just don't vote all the time.
That's
you need to go from
right.
a Hardee's to the voting booth.
Yeah, we still want them to vote the right way, so they have more money to spend. But,
but with a hamburger in tow, if they can, just to get it all the ballot.
Neil, those are the people who are actually not getting good jobs, not getting good wages, and when they fill in their tax return,
they don't vote.
They have to pay the Obamacare penalty.
No, I understand, but as a group, not across the board. I don't want to indict them. They're not reliable when it comes to voting. How do you make them vote? That's what Donald Trump's been trying to do. Well,
they usually go Democratic, so if they sit on the sidelines, that's a plus.
Not this crowd, though. There's a core of, they're called the angry young men, usually white men, who resent what's going on, don't like what's going on, but then they don't make the next move to try to change what's going on. Does that worry you?
Not in this election. I think what worries me in this election is turnout. As long as the Trump people get to the polls, we're going to be just fine. You know, the other big thing in this election is the change message. Drain the swamp resonating around this country. I don't know. I think it's probably Steve Bannon or Donald Trump himself, but it's a beautiful metaphor. Ben Carson had a nice riff on it the other day, where drain the swamp of the democratic creatures, and it's
you
like,
don't want to add too many words.
One thing after another in terms of these corruption scandals. I mean, the depth of how the Washington game is really rigged. I mean, these trade deals. These trade deals are all about the donors that have been given to the Clintons, sending our factories and jobs there instead of having them here.
Given these polls, we're looking at Hillary Clinton speaking in Pennsylvania, where it's tight, surprisingly tight. That hasn't resonated yet.
Well,
it might, but do you worry any that and we're going to go into Ms. Clinton very shortly here, as well as hear a fair and balance from one of her surrogates speaking for her economic cause, but the fact that they're spending so much time, that is Democrats in Pennsylvania, tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, they're in Pennsylvania. President Obama's in Michigan today. I mean, they could be in other states. Look, this is hitting home. Their polling showing it. Trump internal polls are showing it, and it'll show up on election day.
All right, so when you see a 3-point gap in Pennsylvania, and I know these polls are all over the map, but the trend is it's tightening. That would be a big deal, Peter. I mean, he takes Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. There really isn't a path. There really isn't a path for Hillary Clinton if Donald Trump takes Pennsylvania. So we take Pennsylvania.
You're assuming that he takes Florida as well.
Well, if he takes Pennsylvania, he's probably going to take Florida. That'd be a trend that would be absolutely in the right direction.
If you look at Pennsylvania, it's all about the messaging. If you look at the western part of the state, it's all about how trade has killed it. If you look the northeast part, it's trade plus the oil and natural gas issue. And then you go down to Philadelphia, where the black vote, Donald Trump's going to have historic numbers of black voters, because the black voters have been voting Democratic every 4 years, and their life's been getting worse, not better. And so
now you've heard, as we were saying during the break, that offsetting that is more presumably Hispanic support.
Not in Pennsylvania. Okay. And by the way, all this thing about how Hispanics are all for Clinton, people who have been here for a while, who are Latinos, they have been getting hammered just as bad as the black vote by illegal immigration, because every illegal that comes across the border takes a job or drives down the way.
But when you heard that in Florida, that there was such heavy Hispanic voting going on, were you worried about that? With the assumption
I grew up in Florida, and I was there when the Cuban Revolution happened. I can assure you that a lot of Cubans are voting, and they're voting Republican.
Yeah, particularly given what President Obama did with Cuba. I think people are very interested in Florida in voting for Donald Trump, and that does come out as part of the Hispanic vote. But this is a change election. I had an article in Real Clear Politics this morning that said, look, you want to change, this is the election, this is a guy who can lead. And I'm real confident in what the results for tomorrow night. I'm real excited about it.
Well, we'll know tomorrow night.
We will.
All right, guys, thank you both very, very much.